yeah, I mean, it's just, I enjoy talking about this stuff. Like one of my favorite things to do is just ask people about their cycling stories because they're always interesting.
Yeah.
You always learn interesting things about people when you ask them about that question, especially if they're really into cycling and riding bikes and stuff. And so I just enjoy asking people questions and learning about what people care about and that kind of thing. So,
The story is always the fun thing.
it is the story. There's just so many interesting stories, and that's what, one of the things I've really learned from COVID and from the kind of the pandemic area that we've been through. There was so much isolation and so much disconnection in the world during that period of time, and a lot of people needed a way to get out of that. You needed a way to get away from that, and like outdoor activities and stuff was one of the ways that they did that. But like that need doesn't go away. I mean, the pandemic's kind of starting to wane now and starting to go away. But that need for connection, that need for community, that never goes away. That's always there, and there's always.
You're right. Yeah, I was in the position where myself and my crew at this company, I had to develop a risk assessment and protocols and things like that for us to stay open in order to provide the product to the stores.
Yeah.
And it wasn't forced. I mean, we could have said no, I guess, but we created a situation where we felt we were safe enough. And the funny thing was nobody got COVID from work. They got it from family members, or I never got COVID until this year in January, and it was the Omicron variant. Yeah. And but we stressed through the whole thing. I mean, it was really difficult. And I'm not joking. It was very extremely difficult on me and my family, and the people that work with me, or really I work with them. We really had a difficult time to make it happen, and we had to develop 2 shifts. We went from 1 shift to 2 shifts, and it was complete shifts. And we almost doubled our production the first year of COVID.
Really?
And and then the second turnaround, they had built up so much inventory from us that they didn't need as much, so we had to cut back. And so now we're trying to regroup. But it's COVID was really something else, and shutting down everything. I remember I had to create a document and for the company and sign it, so if people got pulled over by the police, they'd let them come to work because they were really shutting everything down.
Yeah.
So it was an amazing experience to be in the U.S. at that time, to see what lengths that this country would go to keep us safe. It was very interesting and very disturbing all at the same time.
There's a lot of uncertainty, and I think that was hard on everyone, that level of uncertainty and unknowing, and where the risk is, where the risk isn't, and being able to make good decisions for you and your family based on very limited information. Yeah. It was very stressful. It's just very stressful.
I know you know it because you have a family.
Yeah, it's very stressful. It was, it was varying difficult for everyone. I mean, everybody experienced it differently, and some people experienced it very hard, but I think everybody experienced the stress. And so just trying to create something that helps solve that problem, and in some small way, I guess.
Well, I think the gravel groups that are developed now are going to expand. Peter Stetina was doing the roads and whatnot, and he literally, and I don't know if it was his uncle, because his uncle's been involved with him early on. His uncle works for Shimano now.
Okay.
But Peter Stetina, fantastic athlete, and every year he was trying to do something here, and he switched from roads to gravel.
Yeah. And
I thought that was really an impressive move, because where's the money?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. Well, and have you read any of Phil Guyman's books? He's
not that I know.
He's retired now, and he's actually a YouTube guy now, and he does some YouTube videos and sponsorships and stuff. But he was a road guy back in 2012 time frame. It's right around the time that Lance Armstrong stuff just blew up.
Yeah, blew up. Yeah.
And he basically comes right out and says his perspective is that Lance Armstrong destroyed road cycling. I mean, just nuked it in the United States. You know, Greg LeMond and the guys in his era in the 80s and stuff, kind of like what you're talking about, it's really what made it famous. And then Lance Armstrong took that, ran with it, and then just drove it into the ground. Right. And he put such a bad taste in all of the corporations' mouths with sponsorship of road teams and stuff, that there was just isn't anything left. I mean, the 2010s were basically non-existent for American road cycling. And I think what's happening now is that gravel is basically becoming America's version of European road cycling. I think it's what you're going to see happening. I think gravel is essentially going to be road cycling for America for the foreseeable future.
The interesting thing that I see, say I'm wrong or whatever, but here in Nevada, there's more gravel roads.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's just wide open spaces here if you get away from the cities.
Yeah.
But the only problem I see is support.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you got to be adventurous to do it, number one, especially if you're going by yourself. That's a lot of being out there in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, doing a out and back, that can mean, you know, you're walking for a long way.
You pull a tire on a bad rock and you're
yeah. So I haven't done it yet. I told you I bought a Trek Boone for Christmas for myself.
Yeah.
I was involved in an accident, a rear ender, and that destroyed my car, my bike rack, and my road bike. That was back in July. It's better. I had to have neck surgery in October from that. So wow. I'm still recouping from stuff. But I'm going to use it to get back on the roads and just to get back to where I'm fit, and then make a decision on where next. And so it's a possibility that I'll go gravel, because part of the reason of going gravel is nobody's out there.
Yeah.
You don't have the road traffic, you know, and all of that nonsense. So in that regard, it's really kind of appealing. In fact, from that regard, cyclocross was kind of appealing to me because you aren't in traffic.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I remember in LA, it would take 30 minutes to drive a car from my parents' home to where I worked in the Manhattan Beach area. Worked for an aerospace company back then in the 80s. And I could ride my bicycle in the same amount of time on the roads because of all the stoplights and stuff.
Painful. That's right.
And back then it was like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. And I'd weave in and out of the traffic and go.
Yeah.
So thank God I made it somehow.
Huh. That's interesting. I'd like to hear more about that. So around here, gravel there's a lot of various types of gravel. So a lot of do you guys have like rail trail projects out there? Because we have a lot of rail trail projects around here.
The only one that I really know of, there's the, let me get it here. Here's my shameless plug.
Yeah, move it over this way here
now. Okay.
Okay.
Biz Johnson Blonde. It's up in Susanville, California, which is about 80 miles north of here.
Okay.
And that was a rail project. And then the Reno Bike Project, I think it was, they skirted the Truckee River, and there's obviously the railway corridor goes up through the Truckee River corridor. And so they went from Lake Tahoe all the way down to Reno, and then they kept making the trail all the way out to Pyramid Lake. And I don't know the total length of it off the top of my head, but driving home last Saturday with my wife and my mother-in-law, I kind of was able to peek over on the side and see some bicyclists going down it. So it is open.
Cool.
But that's a fair distance. You'd have to have some support somebody drop you off at Lake Tahoe or take a bus up to Lake Tahoe and then ride down.
Yeah.
But that would be a nice ride because there is no cars.
Uh-huh.
You're just on the trails.
That's cool.
So it's, those things are far and few between.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people will develop more of it over the years when they realize that what I'm getting at is the condensation of the population here.
Mm-hmm.
When I first moved here 30 years ago, 30 plus years now, there was a lot more open space. I mean, a lot more open space. The population here is quadrupled.
Wow.
So we're in a kind of a weird situation in Reno where there's a lot of jobs, but there's nobody to work them because people can't afford to live here because there's not enough homes. There's so many people.
Right.
So that dynamic has changed the place, and it's enough to where when I first moved here, I could lay in the backyard and look up and see the Milky Way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the Milky Way anymore.
Yeah, too much light pollution.
So yeah, and it's sad, but that's a reality in a lot of cities. But I think more people are going to be more adventurous, either do mountain biking or gravel, and get out there. And when I mean get out there, I mean get out there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a good crew of people here, and in the wintertime, they go down to Death Valley because it's like 70, 80 degrees down there.
Okay.
And the only problem is that if you do a lot of distance riding down there, you got to have support because there's no place to get water.
Yeah.
But that creates a nice bike haven.
That's interesting. I think of Death Valley being very, very hot, not cool. But I guess it depends on the time of day.
It's the desert. The desert in the evening, you'll get a breeze and it'll cool down, and then depending on the time of year, it'll get really cold.
Huh.
I imagine the temperature swings in Death Valley are that way. They're probably close to freezing in the morning and then nice and warm in the afternoon.
Okay.
But if you plan for that type of thing, I've had friends go down there and they camp, so it's a doable thing.
That's cool.
But yeah. But there's other places, and there's so many rides that people don't know about. There's a crazy mountain bike ride, and I forget what they call it, but they start in Canada, and they ride the Rockies all the way down to Mexico. You ever heard of that?
No, I haven't. That sounds nuts.
Oh, it is nuts. I watched a video on it once, and I'm like, these guys are insane. No, literally, because they're in bicycle jerseys and things, and they're out in the freezing cold.
Oh yeah.
It's like, how are you guys going to carry this on?
Yeah.
I'll look that up for you.
Okay.
And it only takes one person. And part of what I do for me is it keeps my mind moving. Doing the same business for a company for 22 years almost, it's like, well, how much more do I need to do to do something? And this actually expands my mind and helps me get involved in things. And it's like Christ. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm Jesus Christ.
I know what you mean.
If I can turn one person on to him, that's worth life right there. And to me, the internet and what you can leverage to make a living off of it to help yourself out, or to create a business and help other people out. People don't understand that when you create a business, it's not just self-serving. You have people underneath you, usually, is what happens, and then you have to help support them. And the biggest thing that I found to be a leader is to be a servant like Christ and just teach. And just say, you've got the information, now you need to apply it in your life. And once you do that, it's like a miracle. And I can't tell you how wonderful it has been here at the company that I work for, to see that happen and to see people just take things and run with it and do well. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with Next Step Legacy. And with Carl Justis, founder, Next Step Legacy, just putting it out there And I'm like you. I really want to see the cycling industry be promoted and grow.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that.
That's awesome.
It's like everything in life. You can't be the superstar bicyclist athlete, but you can work and get good health and, do stuff. So.
All right. Well, Carl, we'll do this again. We've got lots of
Take
stuff
care,
to talk
Tim.
about. So
I appreciate the time. Thank you for having me.
God bless.